Hi, I'm Janis from JBMTHINKS, sports parenting, coach's wife for 3 decades and sports mom for 21 years. And I recently had a parent ask me, how do I talk to a coach about playing time, especially when it's the beginning of the season? And already at the beginning of the season, the kids aren't getting enough playing time, or certain kids aren't getting enough playing time. And I thought about that question, and here's the thoughts I have about that. First of all, I would say that it's important for you to understand and to hear the coach's philosophy. And if he has not verbalized that philosophy to all the parents as far as his playing time philosophy, then you just need to ask him that. Just say, what is your playing time philosophy? Get that in your head and understand it so that you know maybe it'll help you understand his thinking a little bit. Now, doesn't mean you're going to like it. And it doesn't mean that it's going to change anything, but I think it's important for you to know and understand what his playing time philosophy is. Now, the season progresses. Let's say you're into the second tournament or into the second week of it, and you're frustrated because your child or maybe a certain child isn't playing what you think should be enough. And I think one thing to remember is, and this is very hard to do because we tend to react immediately at one game or one tournament, to look at it, the season, try to look at it as a broader view. Try not to just look at one game and say, oh, my kid only played a little bit, at the tournament. And I'll give you an example of this. When my daughter played volleyball, there was a tournament that she went to where she was struggling for playing time, and one particular tournament, she started off the first 1 or 2 games not playing much at all, and I was starting to get a little heated because that's what we parents do sometimes. And my husband, who is a coach, said, you have to just finish the tournament, see the whole picture. It usually pans out. And so as the weekend wore on and she played more games, it did pan out some. She did get a little more playing time, but that particular game or that tournament was not a picture of the entire season. That's what I'm trying to say. Sometimes you look at one game at the beginning of the season or one tournament and say, oh, this is the way it's going to be all year long. And it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes, it pans out. Your child may go, in certain games, may get more playing time and other games not. Maybe it depends on their opponent. If the strategy of that particular team against another team, it could be a lot of variables. But if you take the overall season and look and say, okay, sometimes it pans out. So your immediate response at the beginning of the season to say, oh my gosh, my child hardly played at all this game, I guess this is the way it's going to be the rest of the season. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes you just got to be patient. Let things settle and let it pan out. Now, that doesn't say that it's going to end up the way you would like. Doesn't say it's going to end up with as much playing time as you want for your child. But it does say that sometimes parents are too quick to jump and assume that just because it happened in one game, one weekend, one tournament, that this is the way it's going to be for the rest of the season. And often it doesn't. Things change. Players settle. Coaches see different things. They're experimenting still at the beginning of the season, so give them a little bit of space there to experiment and play around with things before you assume of what's going to happen. Now, as the season wears on and your child still doesn't get the playing time that you feel they deserve, what's the alternative? Well, I am not a big fan of parents going to talk to coaches about playing time. I think that is something that kids need to learn to fight for themselves. Especially middle school, high school, they definitely need to be the ones to having those conversations with their coaches. If your child is younger and there's an issue and maybe your child is a little bit hesitant to confront the coach, I would say maybe the two of you can go have a conversation with the coach and say, what does little Johnny here have to do to get on your radar? Where do you see that he needs to improve? What can he do to improve his game? Instead of coming to the coach, how can Johnny get more playing time? That kind of thing. just approach it and have Johnny with you so that you can realize that it's important to keep your cool. Having your kid there hopefully will help you keep your cool. And just talk, ask the coach a simple question like that without being accusatory, if you feel you have to. Hopefully, if your child is younger, and playing time is not an issue among little kids, hopefully that's the case. But definitely when they get in middle school and high school, your child should be having that conversation, him or herself, with the coach, and just say, hey, go talk to your coach. Go ask your coach that question. You can coach them through that conversation. You can say, this is what you can say, but let them do it. Let them be the ones to step up and have that conversation. So I hope that answers the question about how do you talk to coach about playing time, especially if it's the beginning of the season. So have a great week, and please remember to be part of the Positive Sports Parenting Tribe.